Hello and welcome to the Hume podcast from and Lowell. For those of you who don't know us, Hume is a recruitment training business co-founded by myself, Ed Khan, and Laura Hopes.
And each week we're going to be giving you 10-minute snippets into our world of recruitment, tips and tricks to help you on your journey as an agency recruiter, and hopefully some laughs along the way too. Hope you guys enjoy.
Okay, welcome to this week's episode, everyone.
I'm going to have to pronunciate extremely well this week because Ez said that I had a lisp last week. And I do have a slight lisp, and it's made me very self-conscious.
Oh, is that why you were self-conscious? I've never heard you lisp before.
I'm kind of lispy, do you not think?
No, never once thought it. I only mentioned it on the recording last week because I thought it was a mic thing, and it was a mic thing.
It might be. I don't know now. But I do think I have a tendency anyway.
Oh, okay. I've got a joke.
This week, Ez has a joke to start because we feel like we're kind of maxing out 10 minutes and then we're very serious and then we get to the end and we just say bye. So this week, we're going to start with just a shitty joke.
Who said recruiting was stressful? I'm only 22 years old and feel great.
I don't get it. Is it like because you obviously aren't?
Yes, and obviously weathered for a 22-year-old.
It's so shit, Ez. It's so lame. Out of all of them, that's what you...
That's the one that I'm sticking with. I reckon it's brilliant.
I do reckon, though, recruitment made me go grey early.
Oh, 100%.
I've had grey hair since I was in my late 20s.
I've had no hair since I was in my early 20s. I
genuinely think it might have been this job. Like, I don't know my real hair colour. This isn't it. Nothing. This is the result. Edwards & Co. Thank you. Proudly sponsored by. All right, this week, now we've got about 7 minutes left. This week, we're talking about what constitutes a good client base, because last week's episode, and if they come out in order, great, and if they don't, at some point you will have listened to it, but we were speaking about, you know, the market softening and what that means for recruitment agencies, and that led us to talk about why it's important that you don't just chase a sexy desk, and that your desk isn't just made up of a wish list of brands, which is all very well in a booming market, but when you need a desk that's bolstered and stabilized within a recession market, often having a desk that's just full of fancy tech startup is probably not the best angle. So we just thought we'd talk about some of the things to think about if you do have some flexibility when you're growing your client base to ensure that you can weather storms.
I think there's quite a few things to think about here. And the first one, I feel like we bang on and say this again and again. I think this should be our tagline, but less is more in a lot of cases. And I'm not saying only work on a few accounts. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're sitting there going, I've built with 40 to 50 clients this year, I don't think that's a good client base. Mm-hmm. I think you're dangerously overstretching yourself, and with that many clients you actually can't provide a good service, and you certainly can't have a solid account management strategy, in which case you haven't built a strengthened relationship that will sustain you during a tough period. So that would be my first thing, is a smaller client base that's more engaged with you. And we teach this to our rookies in terms of, once they're up to speed, what should they be aiming for in terms of a client base? And it's 5 key accounts that bring in 60 to 70% of your work. So they're your accounts that are loyal customers. They continuously use you. They want you to be the one filling their roles. And they've got a volume of work. It doesn't need to be 20 roles a year, but sort of say 5 roles a year. They consistently give you year in, year out, 5 to 10 roles. Mm-hmm. That's the majority of your sort of revenue. Then you've got your sort of sort of medium-sized accounts. They'll give you a few roles a year. They are on the
5 to 10 is
stage.
the max.
Yeah, they're on the stage to becoming loyal clients. You're working on converting them from existing client to loyal client. They'll give you a few roles a year, got a good solid relationship with them, but it's not quite solidified to exclusive status. And then you've got your ad hoc accounts. So 5 to 10 of those that bring in 10% of your work. They're your sort of just won the account, they've given me a role. They're your clients that you're starting to sort of move into the stage where they're consistently giving you work and they're starting to talk about not using other agencies. So all in all, you're looking at 20 accounts max.
Yeah. And I think with those ad hoc ones as well, it might just be smaller clients that only need you once a year or twice a year, replacement roles, like that kind of stuff. It's totally fine to have those kind of clients, but your desk can't be made up of those kind of clients because they won't need you consistently especially in a downturn. And it is about trying to get that balance right, so that you don't have all your eggs in one basket, but you're certainly not spread so thinly that you're not able to do a huge amount of account management, and or you're working with a load of accounts or chasing a load of accounts that you want to make your own, but so does everyone else. Right? Like your big fancy techs, like, yeah, if they're one of your key accounts currently and they're bringing you in a lot of business and you've got solid relationships and you can negotiate in those accounts and consult to them and you're considered to be a trusted advisor, amazing. But if you've got little handle on them at all, you're just scraping roles out of them as and when you can and hoping you fill them, that's not a protected account. So I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think the balance across your desk definitely is something that, as a recruiter, growing your desk, you need to be aware of, and you need to be making sure within your client base that you are maximizing the full potential of each of those accounts.
Absolutely. I think the breadth and sort of variety is such an important one. Often I find people go after accounts without the candidate in mind, and I think that's such a big mistake. I think we always need to have our candidates in mind. What do our candidates want to be put forward for? And it's usually not always the same type of role. I mean, I see recruiters that have got the same type of client again and again, just in different sort of business names. They've got the same tech startup type organizations, and that's all they recruit in. I'm like, well, what do you do when inevitably you're interviewing a candidate who doesn't want to work for a tech startup? Then what do you do with them? Nothing, because you don't have a client base outside of tech startups. And so a variety of accounts for me is critical, because that maximizes on the time that you spend in interviewing candidates, because every candidate will want a different type of thing. And if all you do is one type of client and one type of role type, you're leaving yourself vulnerable to alienating a lot of the candidates that you speak to, because if they don't want tech startups, what do you do with them? You can't do anything with them. And so having a variety across sort of size of business, again, not every candidate will want to work for an SME. Some will want to work for a large organization. So do you have that available to your candidates? If you don't, then you're probably missing a bit of a trick with your candidates, not being able to place them if they want a bigger organization and you only have SMEs. So having a variety of clients across size, having a variety of clients across geography, if you can, role types, if you are only focused on one particular role type. Again, what do you do when you've got people that don't yet fit that mold? Inevitably, you'll be getting referrals for people outside of just that one role. So what do you do with them? You can't do anything with them. And then, of course, industry. I think having a breadth of industries that you recruit across, if you are focused on a particular role type, then sort of broaden that based on industry.
Yeah, and I think with what you're saying there, and I want people to be aware of this, we're not saying become a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what we're saying.
Absolutely.
Like, you still need to specialize, but within your specialization, you do need some variety. And I think it's exactly like you're saying, it's just thinking, not being in the mindset that candidates only want one thing. And I think the risk of that is that if that particular market softens, you are highly vulnerable to having your desk wiped out. And so it's not about not specializing, but do you have 2 or 3 role types that you specialize in? Are there 2 or 3 industries that you specialize in? do you have a healthy spread of your SMEs and a couple of larger organizations that are also on offer? So it's not like I'm going to do everything. One thing that we're really passionate about is telling people to become market specialists, but it's having some variety within that and not going down. And it sounds like we're really against tech startups. We're not, but if you look at the market currently, what's bottoming out is the technology.
It's Laura.
Yes, me. I'm having some kind of breakdown over here. But what we're seeing is funding being pulled, talent acquisition, entire divisions being made redundant. We're seeing the likes of Twitter, Amazon make huge layoffs. Deliveroo have just pretty much closed down their Australian operation. And all of these brands we consider to be sexy brands, whereas, you know, there are so many good businesses out there that would give you 100% stability, loyalty, that we just, you know, that have great cultures, great values, great EVP, that we can be tempted to look over in a market boom because we want to win the ones that we think make the great portfolio.
100%. And I think we will do an episode on what makes an individual client a great client, but it's that spread. And I'm so glad you said that, because I think that what I said might have been misconstrued to do a bit of everything, and it isn't. It is, I mean, we at Spencer Lane, marketing specialists, we've got a very small niche in terms of the roles that we'll take on. It's all retained between 120 and 300K. We don't go above that. We don't go below that. We're very, very staunch in that, and we only recruit in Melbourne. But within our client base, we've got a whole breadth of clients. We've got healthcare, we've got aged care, we've got tech startups. We do recruit tech startups. We've got SaaS companies. We've got insurance businesses. We have banking. We have funds investment, wealth management. We've got a real breadth, and they're all of different sizes, but there's a commonality in terms of the people within those organizations. And I think we'll cover off what makes a good client and how do you assess that. But
just, you need to think about this. The last thing I say, because we're going over. Why do we've got an issue with our 10 minutes now. Just hearing the sound of it was your voice at the your joke at the beginning that threw us off. What I will say with that is that you do at this point, whether there is a major market softening or not, you do need to be thinking about targeting industries that are recession proof in some way, shape or form, because otherwise you leave yourself highly vulnerable.
Absolutely.
Okay,
it's not all doom and gloom.
No.
See you next week.